Hello. Mr. Kamath is setting for Davos of Switzerland soon for the 2017 World Economic Forum, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And yes, we are now live broadcast this interview on Xinhua's 3 social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you are interested in our topics regarding world economics, the BRIC countries, or the NDB, do not hesitate. Contact us and your question may be asked to Mr. Kamath.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your time for this interview with Xinhua, particularly at a time when you leave soon for Davos. On another very important occasion, October in Goa, your report on the new development bank was praised by leaders attending the BRICS summit, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, who himself firmly pushed forward the BRICS mechanism as well as establishment and advancement of the new development bank. How do you evaluate China's contribution to the BRICS mechanism and the new development bank in particular?
I think on several fronts, I think the contribution has been significant. Firstly, China is home to us. Shanghai more particularly so, but China is home to us. And the Chinese government has been very hospitable to the new development bank in enabling us to set up and operate in very quick time. Frankly, what we have achieved in the first year would not have been possible without the support that we got from the government on several fronts. First, in getting our offices up and getting us the administrative support in the early days. Secondly, in terms of putting the financial infrastructure in place, particularly on the borrowing side, because we could raise a domestic bond issue within the first few months of our incorporation and set it up. I'm sure it would have been very difficult anywhere else. Thirdly, this enabled us to very quickly do lending in the very first few months of our existence. So I think all put together, we can look back on the year which in a way established the BRICS countries in an economic context, making a small statement that we are trying to also support ourselves within and by ourselves. And so I would think that was appreciated by the leadership and the BRICS summit in Goa.
And China is going to host the BRICS summit September in Xiamen during China's presidency this year. How do you believe China's presidency will further promote the BRICS mechanism and benefit the new development bank?
I think there are several fronts on which I see the mechanism going forward. Particularly, what I will speak about is the economic context. If you look at the economic context, today, in terms of purchasing power parity, the BRICS nations are equal in size on GDP basis with the G7. In terms of global growth, the BRICS countries put together account for about 2/3 of incremental global growth that is happening every year. So I would think that this BRICS summit in Xiamen this year comes in this backdrop where you clearly can see that the BRICS countries are establishing themselves as an economic force. And I would believe that this summit will give us an opportunity to understand where BRICS countries today are in the context of global challenges, where we could drive economic benefit by working in a cooperative manner amongst ourselves, and what is the agenda that the leaders would like to spell out for the future. So I think it is very opportune that the summit is in China, in Xiamen, particularly at a time when there is global, I would say, uncertainty in an economic context. And I'm sure that we will look for pointers for a sustained and sustainable growth in the BRICS countries during the summit.
The new development bank has mobilized a good number of resources into clean energy and green development, which also help China to restructure its economy. By investing a lot into such programs, how does your bank try to state your mission and objectives. How do you expand your low carbon and sustainable development idea into other industries such as e-business?
Our basic focus is infrastructure and sustainable development. And very interestingly, in the area of green, China has already taken leadership in a global context, not just in amongst the BRICS countries, in a global context, in terms of scientific research, in terms of products, and in application of products to generation of green, say, energy. Now, these are learnings where in a knowledge-sharing context you can share this not only in the BRICS countries but around the world. For a start, we want to try to see how we can share knowledge in these areas with our other member countries and leverage China's experiences in a positive way for the good, the economic good of other member countries. As far as e-commerce or the whole going digital is concerned, I see it as a continuing path in the context of green. The reason being, the services sector is going to come to a fore. It's very clearly the clear momentum driver in not only the Western world but in also the developing world. And this increasingly is on e-platforms. So to me, e-platforms in a way continue the digital drive, because if we can do things in using electronic commerce instead of physical commerce, you are saving a whole lot of inputs which otherwise would have to be physically produced. So this is, to me, a significant push.
The first investment of the new development bank will soon be realized in Shanghai. Why did the bank choose Shanghai as the first place to implement a solar energy project funded by the bank? How do you evaluate competitiveness of other Chinese bidders for future bank investment?
Yeah, I think Shanghai, apart from being our home, I think this provided us a good model in terms of investment, because this was a rooftop solar project for an industrial park. It in a way epitomizes where the future is. Locally generated power without the need for large distribution networks, all of which lead to green, as it were. So for us, it was a very logical first step. As I said earlier, China is a competitive player, and when we look at the development in China, we believe it is scalable across other BRICS countries, and that's what we will aim to do.
Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed to initiate the Belt and Road. How do you suggest the initiative better coordinate with the BRICS cooperation?
The Belt and Road project, to me, is a key infrastructure project which is of economic merit to the countries that will be touched by the belt and the road. And clearly, given our focus is infrastructure, this becomes a very key part of our own efforts. So wherever we have an opportunity to collaborate and cooperate with partners who will be working on a project in this area, we certainly will be looking forward to opportunities.
How do you describe the role and features of the new development bank if compared with the Asian Development Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank?
Yeah, I think at the core, the function is the same. It is basically development credit. I think within that, each member, each of the institutions and their board will signify what path to take. Our board and our founding members have given us a direction that we should be looking at infrastructure and sustainable development, and we would do that. In addition, I think there are 2 or 3 areas where we believe we can bring in a degree of appropriate newness, because our name is the New Development Bank, and we would like to look at what we could bring in this context. One clear area that we see is an emphasis on local currency financing in our countries. And now that is borne out by the fact that there is this global challenge across the world with currencies moving at very rapid rates in different directions. So local currency financing becomes what we can term as a safe harbor. So clearly we will look at local currency financing as one key area. The other areas that I see are areas where we can jointly work with these institutions. And clearly, we will aim for working jointly with our other institutions that you named, so that we can work to a common good. So, to sum it, I would say that cooperation and cooperation and newness is something that we would like to bring to the whole development banking process.
We just got a question from India viewers who is now viewing our live broadcast. The question is how banking can help reduce poverty around the world.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. Banking doesn't reduce poverty directly. Banking leads to economic activity, and economic activity where it leads to common good or greater good leads to economic to reduction of poverty. I can say this with confidence that without growth happening, and growth will happen with the contribution of banking, there will be no reduction in poverty. So in that way, there is a direct equation between increased banking for increased growth and poverty reduction.
Could you please just briefly share your agenda in Davos with us?
Well, I think Davos, there are several things that one can do at Davos, but the most critical thing for which I am primarily visiting Davos is to meet with the other heads of the MDBs, because they all plan to meet there. 10 of us meet there to discuss our own, I would say, agenda as it were, and we will spend half a day discussing that. The rest of the time, Davos provides a good opportunity to understand what is happening in a larger global context. Economic, I would say, the landscape as it were, and listen, learn, and share what you know. So it's a meeting place where all this happens, and I look forward to it.
My colleague Rachel will have a few more questions for you.
As the bank issued its first green bond last summer, and it was really successful. And I understand, like that time you mentioned that you guys are preparing for a second issuing very soon, hopefully this year. Do you have any updates you can share with us?
It will be on schedule this year. This is January. I think by the middle of the year we will do this issue. The reason is very simple. This bond issue we will use for two reasons. One, we had said that part of the bond issue will swap, and we will use it in appropriate currencies for other countries. But a large part of the issue will be used in China for Chinese projects. And last year we have not only the Shanghai project, but we also have the Fujian project, and we will use the proceeds from the issue, the rest of the issue that we have to make for these projects during the year.
Do you have any updates on issuing bonds in other countries?
Again, I would think that the bonds in other countries and the next tranche of bonds will be done after we progress with our rating process, the international rating process. The first bond issue we did with a local Chinese rating process from two rating agencies. We had a AAA rating from these agencies. We are now starting work on an international bond rating, which should be available to us in the second quarter. And immediately thereafter, we will plan to make issues in the other countries.
Okay. And do you want to have share more on the updates on the Fujian project you just mentioned?
I think we will probably have an update later on in the quarter, because the loan was just approved. It is yet to be signed, and we will know more details about the progress when we do the signing.
I understand you made this report to the leaders of the BRICS countries last year in Goa, and in this year's Xiamen summit. Are you going to do a report to the leaders?
Indeed, we look forward to briefing the leaders on where we have progressed since last year, and we look forward to hearing from them any advice that they would have for us. And I'm sure they would have advice in the context of our business.
Well, do you have some scoops that you can share with us, like where you're going to report their time?
I would think that it's too early, because we would like to perform during the coming year and then report that performance to the leaders.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Off camera.